Hello, everybody. It's Stu Smith and Jeff Nichols, and we're doing another tactical fitness report, this time on the unique athlete that are involved in, X game type sports, maybe BMX and snowboarding and skateboarding, surfing, some of those more challenging balance exercises and skills that some of these guys have. So I've seen many people that aren't typical athletes. They may not play sports in school, but they spend a lot of their time at dirt tracks or ski ramps and, do a lot of crazy stuff. So let's talk about this X Games guy, Jeff. What were some of the first ones?
The non-traditional folks are, again, if you've ever experienced, I've been snowboarding since I was, I was 8. I'm 39 now, almost 40. So it's one of those things that I spent a lot of time in the winter doing in my free time. And I know a lot of guys did. My buds class, same thing. And I think on the mental side too, because they're they're more mainstream now than they were when you and I were kids, for sure.
Yeah.
They're kind of like that stigma that's associated with like laziness or potheads or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That may or may not still be the case, but it's certainly not my perception. Also because I grew up doing that skateboard. I had a little mini half pipe in my backyard when I was a kid. And my son was born in a mountain town, and he was snowboarding and skiing before he was 1. It's just one of those things. You get him on the mountain, and I think because of the cold, it was skiing, snowboarding. When it comes to skateboarding and snowboarding and all these, one of the commonality between all of these extreme sports is the risk of injury if you're missing skill.
Yeah.
Right? Or decision-making under those high velocity, high stress, high speed sports create this really interesting sort of disposition of like, well, I could eat shit, or I could be a hero zero. And that right there tends to favor pretty good that, you know what, screw it. I'm at Buds, man. Let's go for it.
You know what, too? Performing under pressure.
Yep.
I mean, you got to figure that they have succeeded in that skill tremendously, because if they don't perform, if they don't move exactly the way they're supposed to move, you're right. They're going to crash.
Yeah. They're going to burn hard. There's that fear.
Yeah. Just think about too, how many times they practiced to nail that.
Yeah.
To nail that move,
Not to say that there isn't a risk of injury in sport, especially like in football and rugby and some of those in lacrosse and those wrestling. It's just that the frequency of it, maybe not so much. Again, I'm trying to think is like every moment you're on a half pipe, you could get hurt. Skiing or snowboarding, right? Every time you're on a mountain, rock climbing, risk of life or death. And again, I won't go too far down the road, but these have become so prevalent that actually the research in these worlds of like high performing athletes in these these high extreme sports, they create a certain psyche that actually is a term of extreme is a tactical term now in the physiological world, because that extreme creates cognitive sort of conditioning that you've already kind of said it forces finite execution of movement patterns under great stress.
Yes.
And it creates it's called the flow state, the zone. And there's a book called like Chasing Superman or something like that. That's kind of a history of it. Like free divers, the Red Bull team, all that stuff has been researched and time and time again. And they're finding these extreme athletes get into that zone or that flow state as good or better than any other athlete, because that inherent risk of life or limb is always looming.
Yeah.
And that right there is specifically our military and special forces, is that the training is so up here that it forces the mind to go, all right, sink or swim. And that's why there isn't this like what I almost passed Buds, or I just made it through Buds. You either make it or you don't. I mean, even the guys that we say, hey, there's some guys that struggle with PT. Everyone struggles with Buds in its own right. But even the guys that didn't get great on the PST, they were exceptional in many other aspects of what the SEAL world or even Bud's offers. So with these extreme athletes, they tend to get that pucker factor sooner. Like the kid that grows up on skis gets in a 22-foot half pipe in Breckenridge, Colorado, or Whistler or whatever. That's scary.
Yeah.
And you get an 8-year-old kid playing Pee Wee football, they may be a little nervous, but they aren't scared.
Yeah,
that's
a really good point. Yeah, I remember jumping out of my plane the first time, and that was, that was a huge poker factor. Yeah. But these guys are like, just show me how to do it, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Especially like now. Again, I'll get off my soapbox after this, but like, you think about. There are very few things that a child could get involved in. Now, the world can be inherently dangerous if you're playing in the street. Got it. But, baseball is pretty controlled. You have those very rare occasions of a ball striking someone and killing a child. Same with football and same with all those things. But you put a kid on skis, and I know this firsthand because my son would just charge down the mountain at 2 years old. I had to put a leash on him. You know what I mean? And hold it. I had a retractable dog leash.
Oh, funny.
He'd ski and snowboard with a climbing harness, a kid's climbing harness. I'd clip in the back of it and hold on to it because he would just down the mountain and that's dangerous. That's really dangerous, admittedly, right? But I controlled it as much as I can, right? You have to put control parameters in these extreme sports. They're already built in to baseball, football, basketball, those sort of things, right? But you can't take a kid skydiving, but they can scare the hell out of themselves on a ski slope.
Sure.
They're not going to be like that in a baseball field. So even if your kid at a young age is being scared to death and then controls it and conquers that fear, and that's why you watch like, Shaun White in his prime and like a lot of those guys. I'm sitting there watching X Games and you have these 16-year-old kids doing double backflips on it. I'm like, that is absolutely insane. Whereas I'd have the same conversation I have in the past with those same individuals, and they look at me and they go, man, that is insane what you did.
Right.
And I'm like, because I was conditioned for it the same way they were conditioned for doing a double backflip on a motorcycle, whatever. So we both look at it the same way. And that's why they've been already done it. I wasn't doing double backflips other than like maybe in a trampoline or a pool as a kid, but my point is that by proxy of the danger that's inherently in their sports, it creates this mental capacity to just be like, whatever, man, cold water, let's do this.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great way to frame it too. I like that.
That's my soliloquy.
I would say that those are some incredible intangibles, that these guys have. I don't think many other sports can actually top that because you're right. Scared to death, and get it over it and performing is so valuable.
And not that people, sport is inherently failure. Baseball, 70% failure career will get you in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well, in skateboarding and snowboarding and skiing and rock climbing, like failure is a problem. Is a real problem. And it's always there. And it's like you get these guys that crash, and they put them on the O course and they're like, whatever. Just jumping. Like they're the guy like Andy Irabito who owns Half Ace Blades. He was that guy in my buds class. He was the youngest guy. He was the most aggressive guy. He grew up skateboarding in Northern California. And I remember to this day, they probably went over the rule, but they're like, hey, at this point on the cargo, you have to go up and over. You can't, then there's a piece of yellow rope tied in or something where like at this point you can't jump from. Below it you can. And I remember Andy jumped from basically the top of that thing, got over it and just and they're like, Arabito.
That's like 3 stories.
Yeah, it just goes off it. He was a guy, in Buds that was standing on top of a school bus. It would take off and he'd jump off backflip and land on the concrete. You know what I mean? It's just like, he was just like, oh, whatever. He was a guy, he and I were on a gas and oil platform in Seal Beach in Huntington. He jumped off the helo pad, which was over 100 feet. And I'm like, man, I jumped off the next deck, which was like 80. the gnat just hurt. And I was in a wetsuit. Silly, man. Like it just, a guy that's just wired different, you know?
Wow. That's
But
impressive. They are wired different.
it's just,
you are right.
It's pretty cool to see those guys just be just like, meh, if I crash, it crash, man.
And I tell you what's really cool too is when I've seen a lot of those guys that are very untraditional, athletes,
Yep.
and then they come into a traditional athletic setting where they're lifting weights regularly, they're doing calisthenics to a group standard, they're swimming with technique. To be such untraditional athletes, they can boom jump right in there pretty easily.
Yep. And you've already hit why the
Yeah.
balance that these guys in the leg and the core strength
Yep.
is so good on these folks.
Yeah,
So
their ability to move their body, easily is already there from all the flips and jumps and
Yep.
pedaling or whatever they're doing. Balance really does move nicely into a more traditional to and through training program.
Yeah. It's called the kinesthetic awareness.
Yep.
It's your body's, your mental ability to perceive where your body's at in space and time as that's moving.
Yep.
Well, it's not on the ground. So that's kinesthetic awareness, or proprioception, where you can feel the ground and where your pressure, like wrestlers have.
Wrestlers, really martial artists.
Right. Skateboarders, snowboarders, surfers have really good kinesthetic awareness and proprioception.
Yeah.
So they're balanced. So again, simple layman's terms is their balancing muscles are as useful or are being maximally used to support their contraction, their locomotion muscle groups.
Yeah.
It's such a good, and so that's kind of the upside, to be honest with you, the downside, in my opinion, might only be, and it's no different than any other sport, is that maybe they weren't diverse enough. Like maybe they only grew up surfing.
Yeah.
They just loved it, right? And and maybe, they're probably good. They're going to be good at pulling and swimming, but they may not have very good at pressing. They may not be very good at pressing, right?
Yeah. Or running,
right?
Yeah.
Good with rucking, but maybe not so good with running with speed.
Yeah.
But it's individually based.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are really good speed and agility.
Yep.
I would say, for a good group of them on an off season when they're not in the snow or they're not riding the bikes, they're probably working on speed, agility work, maybe not too much on the endurance side, just depends on the sport that they're doing. But I would say the thing that we would probably have to work on the most, and in hindsight, thinking about the couple of BMX guys that are just made it through Buds recently, was swimming, just getting them in swimming shape, because they picked up the stroke real easily.
Yep.
Learning this technique was not a problem. Then it was getting in swimming shape.
Yeah.
Being a good runner was not a problem, but they had to get in running shape.
Yeah.
So that would be the only additional, and that's for everybody too. I mean, it's not different for anybody else. We all have to get in running shape and get in swimming shape.
For sure.
But that'd be it for me.
Yeah.
Obstacle courses, they're going to crush.
Yeah. They're going to handle log PT pretty good. They're going to handle boats pretty good. Their ability to just roll with the punches, for lack of a better term, be pretty good at that. Just their overall attitude, it's not laissez-faire, like they don't care. They're just like, hey man, I'm going to put it out there. And that's what a lot of traditional sports don't do a good job of fostering. Hey man, go for it. Because, in golf, now there are in every sport, there's times to be real conservative and times to be real aggressive. Well, when it comes to being victorious in extreme athletes, extreme sports, it's go for it every moment. You know what I mean? It's just like go.
Yeah. And it's sometimes the only guys that win are the ones that come up with something they've never tried before, but they've thought about it so much in their head. They kind of dirt dived it so many times.
Yeah.
So they have that ability to see something, think about a procedure, follow that procedure, and nail it. So, moving through some of the difficulties of buds like pool comp and,
Yep.
Some of those, sorry, some of those things, their ability to pick up and have a really high learning curve, and pick those things up are,
Yep. One of the big
sharp
linear
too.
things I think is this. Imagine that if every time that you had advance in your skill in baseball, your life was threatened. What I mean is when you become proficient at skiing, snowboarding, all those sort of things, to get to the next level, you have to be able to do these 4 skills. In learning each one of them could end your career or your life.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in baseball and football and wrestling.
No.
Like, if you're a 12-year-old skateboarder and you just learned the McTwist. Well, now you got to work on a whatever, right? Or
double back McTwist.
Exactly. You're like, I'm on the BMX, man, I got my first backflip. But for you to even be competitive, you're going to have to do a double backflip, bar spin, no hander over an 18-foot double, right? In a stadium around people just to be competitive. But now you have to practice that for weeks or months. And how many times did you crash? And each one of those could have ended your life or ended your career.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in any other sport.
No.
So, and that's exactly how it is in the SEAL community. It's like, well, wait a minute. Like, for me to advance professionally, I got to go to sniper school, or breaching school, or all these schools. Like, wait a minute. I'm handling a 40-pound haversack that could bring down an entire building. And I'm having to procedure, ground myself, work, all these sort of things. Like, you got to work with stuff that would otherwise potentially end your life or career in an instant.
Yeah.
That is extreme sports.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
Again, that's spillover potentially in rugby and football, but far more rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Far more rare. There's so many kids, 12, 14, 15 years old, that have to have total shoulder reconstruction for eating crap on a BMX bike, on a half pipe, right? Or four-wheeler or something. Doesn't happen a lot. Doesn't happen a lot for kids.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if they can get through the medical waiver process, which is stringent, they're lucky. I would say that'd probably be one of the hardest things.
That's probably the hardest thing is if they've
getting to the training. Yeah, getting to the training after several surgeries of knees, shoulders, back, ankles.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that's probably that's probably like one of the things if you've had, ACL repair, meniscus, shoulder, hip, whatever. That's probably the biggest thing is can you get the medical waiver if you've had prior injury in these sports? So I think it's a really unique, and I like looking at that perspective of these individuals because for somebody that I'm fascinated with performance enhancement on the mind side, I like to look more into those athletes because when you're confronted every moment with an ever-growing difficulty and skills that you have to learn, and as that skill increases in difficulty, the danger goes up every time.
Yeah, that's something I never really thought about, but you're right. That's one hell of a skill.
Thing, right? Yeah. It's why you and I as adults look at the X Games like everyone else and goes, that is freaking insane.
Yeah, and they're so young. I mean, the guys that are up and coming, every now and then you'll see Tony Hawk out there doing something, an old guy, but those guys, man.
So we could lump right in here too. Here's another really good one to lump in this we didn't mention is the guys that do professional parkour.
Oh yeah.
That's some serious, because I've been through a parkour course, 2 of them. When I was in the teams, it's something we're like, hey man, this way, and we did. A bunch of us went and we're like, we made our own parkour gym.
Nice.
In Shran, Afghanistan, in a 5,000 square foot bin. It was awesome. And that's what we did. I did that over that 130-day deployment. Man, I did parkour almost every day, just working on just movement, and that's the best I'd ever felt as a SEAL. I just stopped weight training for a while, and that's all I did was parkour.
Nice.
And it was awesome. And I was like, man, those guys. I at this point, there's got to be some pseudo parkour guys that have gone through buds. I bet you anything.
Oh yeah, there are. I've talked to a few, online.
I bet they just crushed it. So, Yeah. So we got, no, and again, we've already talked about for these athletes, there's not a real difficulty for these athletes because they're so good at managing their body.
Yeah.
They typically are very, very good at resistance training.
Yeah.
Right?
I will say this, the guy that I worked with here locally, he probably was about 6 months and he was gone. Like he finished college, was doing BMX stuff, working out, and he was in 6 months, he was gone. So like he learned how to swim better, got in running shape, got in swimming shape, was out of here in 6 months.
Yep.
So it says,
again,
says a lot for their
the
bodies.
last video we did, right, was about the non-athlete. You may not want to necessarily pick up an extreme sport if you're a non-athlete, but again, we could put things in there like learn parkour, learn some rock climbing, like the Ninja Warrior stuff. There's gyms all over the country now.
Yeah.
This Ninja Warrior, and like that's just a different level of parkour. But man, just be active and get out there and just try a little bit of everything. You're gonna find, man. Just trampoline parks, or just something.
Yeah.
So I guess we've covered the mental side. We've covered kind of the physical. I don't see there being any real negatives aside from, well, you just got, like everyone else, you got to learn sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe teamwork. Maybe not the best team players.
Right.
Because there's not many that are, unless they're on like an Olympic team, but still they're pretty much an individual sport and are individually recognized by sponsorships.
For sure.
It's not like a team. So, if there's any issues, it might be slight attitude, team, maybe not handle negative feedback from instructors as well as others. Yeah. But I mean, I'm really reaching for negatives here.
Yeah. All those could certainly exist for anyone else too. But you're right in the context of, let's say that this person has been a very successful and almost a pseudo pro BMX rider. He is competing with all of his peers to get sponsors and all these sort of things. And it has to be cutthroat. That's the nature of that business and those sports. But that's also the beauty where BUDS and the SEAL community and all the special forces, it does such a good job of taking those individuals and going, yep, these are your people.
Yeah, now you're a team.
And that's why a lot of those individuals will then go, man, I can be myself and it's not frowned upon and I can do it in support of myself and my team.
Yeah.
So
there's a learning curve to it, but it can actually be done. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Because you're going to find so many, and that's the thing that's very cool. I thought one of the coolest things in hindsight about BUDS was that I for the first time in my life, I found a whole bunch of people that were just like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I found. I still find so compelling because I know the guys that get through BUDS now, I know for the most part are just like me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of who we are as people. Yeah. So I always find that to be very, 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 very motivating for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we got the mental side, the physical side. This one we kind of, ends up being pretty quick. It all depends on age too, kind of how long they've been doing and whatnot. But
and injury history.
Yeah, injury is one of those question marks about what sort of wear and tear we've uncovered. And again, also we're not saying it's like, I skateboarded for 3 years when I was a kid. I'm an extreme athlete. No, that's not what we're talking about.
Taking it to a competitive level.
Yeah, especially guys like from California and places where, in one day you could surf in the morning in Orange County. And then by that afternoon you could be snowboarding or skiing in Bear.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And I've actually done that once. Did that once. I wanted just so I could do it.
That's pretty cool.
That's exactly what I did. But it was super icy. It was super icy. We ended up actually, a buddy and I, we went up there. We did the same thing. We ended up leaving. We're there for like 2 hours. Like, man, like I ate shit hard. And in the park, and it knocked my head pretty good. Oof. I'm like, I'm done, man. Like it was just solid ice. So anyways, okay, we got positive, negatives, all those sort of things. Did we miss anything really?
Other than, like I said, we would probably need to put them on a strength program and focus on getting to and through the training. But
Yeah.
even then, I think the time spent with these athletes is probably going to be pretty minimal.
Yeah.
If they pick up swimming fast, just got to get them in swimming shape. Might take a couple months for running shape to be a little faster, and then boom, they're off.
Yeah, I think, and again, that's the universal commonality is that, folks, it takes some time.
Yeah.
And be patient, and don't say, well, Stu and Jeff said it'd take me 6 months. Well, it might take
depends.
you 8. It might
depends.
Man, there again, it could be an outlier. Hell, there are guys that, Stu and I included, basically, we're like, oh, I'm just going to go to Buds, man. You show up and go, oh, that's what I got to do. You got to do it. Like Mitch Aguiar didn't know he had to go to Buds to be a SEAL.
Wow.
Yeah, necessarily. He was just like, yeah, I mean, when he first went to recruiter, he's like,
right.
Hey, I want to be a SEAL. And the guy's like, oh, you got to go through Buds and all this stuff. He goes, oh, you got to do that? And then he's like, yeah, you got to get 6 months, the most difficult training. He's like, well, if that's what I have to do. He just joined the Navy, went to Buds, never trained for it, nothing.
Wow, that's impressive.
But he just grew up being athletic, though, too. I grew up doing sports. So you can be that guy, but and many people do. But I just look at it and go, well, that's too hard to, like, grab that person and go, you don't need to. You're going to be fine. So Stu and I look at it and go, well, let's grab this population of people that we're working with, and we'll give them our best to give them what we can, because I don't work the mental side. That's a whole other ball of wax. But on the physical, I'm 100% sure, and I know Stu is too, I'm 100% sure that every single time if you go through our programs, you will be physically capable of completing Buds. The mind is up to you then.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I saw a great quote, and this is a good way to end this one, is what was it? It was called it is your road and your road only, right? Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. Just thought that was cool.
Yep.
Yeah, because there will come a time in your training, in this journey where it is only you, and you are left alone with your inner thoughts and your external pain, and you're cold and you're wet and you're miserable and you're sandy, and your want to will come into play.
Yes.
How bad do you want this will come into play.
Yeah.
And you need to be ready for that moment and just keep moving.
Yeah.
So
I believe this, if I could find the secret to it, believe me, I would manipulate it. But I really, really do believe this. I believe, with the exception of 2 or 3 people that go to Buds that, maybe they did their PST out in the fleet and their buddy hosted it and they really didn't pass, and they show up to Buds and can't do any of the running and the swimming, because there will be people at Buds that will fail the PST miserably. I mean, not even close.
Yeah.
Like 6 pull-ups. You're like, how the hell did this guy get a spot? Well, his buddy in Guam did his PST for him and gun decked the numbers, kind of thing. But outside of those 2 or 3 people, I really do believe that 100% of those individuals are physically capable of getting to Buds.
Absolutely.
100% of them. Why is it that only a small percentage, 14, 15% make it through? There is that switch inside of you, in your brain, not your body, in your brain, that you go, I'm either going to go for it or I'm not. And that's the extreme side. You know what I mean? That's what extreme athletes are. They're like, I'm going to go for it and lay it out there, and what happens, happens, and then I'm going to deal with it. Or they're like, I'm too scared. You know what? I'm just better off going down this safe road and working in this cubicle in a shitty JCPenney suit for the rest of my life. After I spend 4 years in the Navy and get out, and then I live with regret the rest of my life. Again, I'm being super dramatic. I get that. But it is my belief, having lived in a community that's done so much for me, that it's never you're never better off. Never. You're probably never better off quitting Buds. Your life isn't going to improve from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Now, you may live a great life, and that's not what I'm saying. But for me, and I know for Stu, I'm able to look back and go, you know what? that was so worth it.
Yeah.
In every way. Had I quit,
100%.
I still think I would have, I had my college degree. I would have done something. I would have gotten work. I would have made money and all those sort of things and lived a life. But the life that the community has given me, there's nothing better for me. It's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, one thing is for sure, BUDS is the test.
Yep.
BUDS is the test. People talk about the PST and can you get in shape for BUDS and, and all this stuff. But really it comes down to the 6-month test that you have to endure.
Yep.
And, it's not for everybody, but, everybody who goes there is perfectly capable of making it through there.
Yes.
Physically.
100%. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
So it's not a mystery, folks, but stupid questions, man. We've got too many, honestly, to begin with. But again, mine always goes back to context. Okay. Do your research, and also do us a favor. If this happens to be your first one you've listened to Stu and I, and you're still listening after if this happens to be your first video of listening to Stu and I, go back through our videos and you'll probably find many of the answers that you seek.
True.
We've done a pretty darn good job of covering a lot of detail. There's no one else doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
In such detail. So go back through the videos. If you can't find something, we'll probably find one for you. But if there ever was a secret for getting through BUDS, somewhere between the videos you and I have done, we found it for you, each person. It's in there.
Yeah.
It's in there.
I would say.
So, all right. So maybe the next, what we talked about, maybe the next one we do, maybe pick on another athlete, or maybe we cover.
Yeah, there's a couple more athletes we haven't done. I don't think we've done hockey. We've done the rowing athlete. So there's more. And if anybody, you guys have questions and you want to hear about, whatever athlete that you are, as long as it's, a kind of a traditional sport, we'll go there and see what it is. Wait, maybe we do the band member.
We could do, for sure.
Hey, remember the guy that played in the band and he became a special forces guy? Played in, what did he play in? He's a guitar player for.
Oh yeah, Soundgarden.
Yeah. And
he became an SF guy. Yeah. So he was in 10th group.
Yeah.
10th group special forces. Yeah. So he was it was Soundgarden.
Soundgarden, and he was Kurt Cobain, right?
He was. I think he did a while. He did a stint with Nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah.
Nirvana, and then Soundgarden, and he spent 15 years in the 10th Special Forces in Colorado Springs. So, I mean, it's
there are band members. There are band members who, by the way, are great team players.
Yep.
You can't play a song and not be a team member when you're playing a tuba.
Yeah. Again, so this is your guys' opportunity in this video in particular. Anyone's particular, put in the comments. Go, hey, I'd really like to hear, even if not a sport one. Be like, because Stu and I have kind of talked about maybe we should do one about programming with rucking or something.
Yeah.
If you guys are like, hey, and don't make it like, well, you guys haven't covered someone that does badminton. Okay, got it. But if there's something you're like, man, they haven't covered this.
Right.
What about this, guys?
Yeah.
You guys drive. You all are driving the curriculum.
Yeah.
More or less. So drive it. Put in the comments box.
Let us know, man. We'll get to it.
Yes. All right, Stu. We will do this again maybe in probably Wednesday or something.
Yeah, let's do it. Another couple days. We'll do another one.
Awesome.
All right.
Man.
Thanks, Jeff.
Soon. Yep.
We'll see you.